Hi, Johnna.
Hi, Kathy. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm ready to get going and cook some food with everybody tonight.
Okay, I
So,
see we have a lot tonight, so
yeah,
I won't keep you waiting. We'll just go right into it.
great. Yeah, this is going to be a little more involved than what we normally do, so bear with me, guys. So, again, my name is Johnna Miller, and I work for the Ohio State University through the Ross County Extension Office and the Ohio SNAP Ed program. And tonight we're going to talk about protein primarily, but we're going to do seafood Ohio style. I mean, we all know that we don't get a lot of fresh seafood in Ohio, but I'm going to show you how we can still incorporate it into our diet and make sure we're getting those good nutrients out of the fish and the seafood with one little recipe here then. And then also I want to always point out that my two websites that I always urge you guys to go to, the celebrateyourplate.org. Go there and check out all the wonderful recipes and activities. And then also the choosemyplate.gov is the USDA's website for everything nutrition. So make sure you check those two things out. All right, so tonight we're going to do a couple recipes that are really going to be good to up our protein intake. Protein is not something that's really hard for us to get in our diets because, face it, we're carnivores and we really like to eat our meats, but getting the proteins that are not going to be as heavy in fats sometimes is going to be a little challenge for us. So I've got a couple of quick recipes here, and the first one I'm going to start is a garlic and herb lentils. Now, if you've never had a lentil before, they are just these little, they kind of look like a flat pea. They are in the legume family, and they cook like beans. You buy them dried like this, and you just do them just like you would a bean. So I've got my cup of lentils measured out here already. I've already rinsed them all off and got them all clean. You go through them and look for them, make sure there's no bad ones in there, just like if you were making navy beans or kidney beans or, soup beans. So it's kind of the same principle. But the thing is, they cook a lot quicker. And then I'm going to give you some really interesting facts about lentils because a lot of people aren't familiar with them. So to start off with, we're going to, our ingredients are lentils, obviously, some oil, which I'm going to use olive oil tonight, a half a cup of diced onion, 2 cloves of garlic minced, which I use my cheater garlic, and then some Italian seasoning, some low sodium chicken broth, and then a little bit of lemon juice to finish it off. So really, most of the stuff you're going to have once you buy the lentils, you're going to have most of the stuff in your pantry already. So it's not really hard to do. So the first thing it says to rinse and sort your lentils, and I've already done all of that. So I'm going to go ahead and get my skillet heating up here, and I'm going to put in just a little bit of olive oil. And then I'm going to chop my onion up here real quick. We only need about a half a cup, so I'm not going to use the whole onion. My knife might need a little sharpening from the looks of it there. And you're going to mince your onion up pretty small because we want to make sure that, these are going to cook up pretty good. So I'm just going to run down through and just make little slivers. And then we're just going to put this onion and the garlic and the Italian seasoning in this olive oil that I have placed in this skillet getting hot. And we're going to just saute those up until they start getting soft. And it just take a few minutes. It won't take long at all. Okay. All right. So let me get this onion in my skillet here. I think my oil's already hot. I'm really loving my new gas stove that I got here, guys. I know a lot of people swear by electric, and I've had it for years, but I really like my gas stove because everything cooks so much quicker. But the downfall is I have burned a couple things, so oh well, learning curve. I'll get there. All right, so there goes my onion in there. And as I said, it calls for cloves of garlic, but I buy what I call cheater garlic, which is these jars of pre-minced garlic. And I'm going to put about, it says 2 cloves, so that's about a tablespoon. So we're just going to eyeball it a little bit. There we go. And then it calls for let's see, 2 teaspoons of the Italian seasoning. So I just got a pre-mixed Italian seasoning here that I'm going to put in, and this is going to be quite a bit of seasoning and 2 teaspoons. But it's the lentils don't really have a whole lot of flavor themselves, so you're going to use your seasoning to really give them the flavor. Let me get a spoon out here so I can stir this around. All right, let me get over here so you guys can see what I'm doing in this pan. Or you can really smell the herbs coming up really quick in there, and it smells wonderful. All right, so those are starting to brown up, starting to cook up, so I'm going to measure out 2 cups of my low sodium chicken broth. And you always want to make sure you're looking for the less sodium when you're buying your chicken broths in the store. And I've got a 2-cup measuring cup here, so I'll go ahead and measure that out. And we're just going to bring this to a boil. It won't take very long at all to bring it up to a good simmer. And then we're just going to put our lentils in, and then you just let them cook for like about 30 minutes or less. It doesn't take very long at all because they're so small, and they do absorb the liquid pretty quickly. So get that stirred around there. And by bringing your broth up to a boil before you put them in there, that kind of speeds up the cooking process as well. Now, the good thing about this is you saw, I put about 2 tablespoons of olive oil in there, which is a good fat. It's not a trans fat or a saturated fat, so it's going to be good for us. And let's get this up, heated up a little bit. So this is going to make a nice side dish, or you actually, since it is such a good protein source, it could be considered a main dish as well. And you could serve this, and tonight we're going to serve it with the fish, so you're going to get your extra bonus as far as having the protein in there. All right, so let me get this. Oop, wrong burner. As I said, it's a learning curve, guys, with this stove. So I'm going to move this over to this burner, and then I'm going to stir my lentils in, which I've already pre-washed and pre-measured there. And we're just going to let those simmer and cook. And while they're cooking down, we are going to start our fish, okay? So let me turn that off real quick. So as I said, seafood in Ohio is kind of hard to come by. It's not like we have an abundance of seafood around here, fresh seafood. So we have to pretty much rely on frozen or something that has been shipped in. And to have seafood on hand a lot, it is just as easy to buy the frozen fillets. Now, what we're making tonight is a tilapia. And tilapia is a nice, light flavored fish. It doesn't have a heavy flavor to it. So whatever you season it with is pretty much what it's going to taste like. So I have these fillets that I buy them in bulk in a bag. We usually get about 8 to 10 fillets in a bag. And then you're just, it's really super simple to get these things seasoned up, and whatever you season with is what it's going to taste like. So your recipe calls for 4 fillets. I'm going to cut this in half. There's only 2 of us here in this household, so I'm going to make half. And it calls for all-purpose flour, a little bit of Italian seasoning or ground marjoram, whichever you want, and some salt, some pepper, and a little bit of garlic powder, okay? So I've taken all those things and I've mixed them together in my little dish here. It says to put it in a plastic bag. Well, I have a problem with that because I like to, I'm trying to be good for the environment. So I mix that all together in my little dish here, and then I'm going to take a pair of scissors and cut open my packets of fish fillets here. Let me grab a paper towel because I want to get some of the moisture off of this fish as I cook it before I put it in the seasoning. So I'm just going to take my fillet out. Actually, first let me get my skillet hotted up again here. Let's start over again. Put about 3 teaspoons of oil in your pan, just enough so you got it coated there. And then I cut open this fillet. And then I'm going to take a paper towel and just dab some of that moisture off of there. You don't want it to be too wet, okay? And then I'm just going to put it into the pan there with my seasoning, and just make sure this is what they call dredge. Put this in the flour and the seasoning mixture, and push it in and get it coated pretty well. Okay, so there's one. Now let's do the other one. Now you can do this with other fish. You could use cod, you could use some whitefish, but you want to do it with a lighter flavored fish. If you use like a salmon or a catfish or something like that, they have a heavier fishy taste to them, so they're not going to go quite so well with this seasoning. But you can use, I mean, you can make you think more of a cornmeal or something like that when you're talking about catfish, but this is still going to be a nice coating. When you put this flour coating on here, we put it in this oil and brown it up, the nice thing about it is that you're going to get that little bit of crispy on the outside of it, but it's not going to be that heavy batter like you would get if you were deep frying a fish. And that's where we put a lot of the extra calories when we are cooking fish, okay? So let me pull you back over close by again so you can see what I'm doing in the skillet. And you can see there I got my oil. I'm going to get that moved around. And I'm just going to take my fillets and I'm going to lay them down in this skillet. And we're going to just let them cook and brown on one side for about 2 to 3 minutes, or maybe just a little bit less than that. And you want to get them so they have just a nice little sear with that batter coating there, and it'll get it so you get that nice little crispiness on the outside, and then when it's done, it'll flake real easy and be nice and light inside. So it's not going to be like a swimming in grease type fish, if that makes sense. But the nice thing is, like I said, you're going to get this without all the extra deep fried fats that you get if you would go to a restaurant or even if you would deep fry fish at home. But you can see how quickly that starts bubbling up there. And it doesn't take very long. Tilapia is a thin fillet, so you only have to just cook it just a couple minutes on both sides in order to get it so that it's done in the middle. Kathy, if you want to go ahead and go to my one little slide there about the proteins and the fish and talking about the good fats. Okay, so good fats is if we eat about 8 ounces of non-fried fish each week, and you divide that over 2 to 3 times at 4 ounces a piece, you're going to have a lot of the good, healthy omega-3 fats that we should be getting in our diet. So those are not the saturated fats, they're not the trans fats. So that's a really good thing to have fish in our diet to get that omega-3s in there, because that's going to help us lower our cholesterol. And the same way, if we would add some nuts into our diet, those are going to be good, healthy fats. It only takes about 2 to 3 ounces of each to get a nice good serving of those in there. And then always check and watch your oils. You always notice I'm pretty much always using olive oil, but avocado oil, grapeseed oil, corn oil, canola oil, peanut oil, safflower, soybean. Try to stay away from the animal-based fats is basically what you need to do. And as the American Heart Association says here, that's going to be healthy and good for you. So always try to use the plant-based as much as you can when you're using oils. Try to use fish and lean chicken as your protein and cook them in those oils, and then use your nuts and seeds as an additional way to get some more good fats in there. All right, Kathy, I think I'm about ready to turn this fish over. So let's see what we've got going on here. This one is browning up really good. And you can see there, you got the nice little crisp edges already starting up around. Oh yeah, it's gonna be perfect. And my lentils are bubbling away over here, so hopefully they get done before we're ready to go. So what is a lentil? Okay, I know probably a lot of you have never tried them. I'm sure a lot of you have heard of them, but they're not something that you see every day in a diet. So Kathy, if you want to put that one last slide up there, I want to kind of just go over these things so you can see what a good addition they will be to your diet. So lentils are high in fiber. We're always looking for the extra fiber in our diet and complex carbohydrates. And they're low in fat and calories as well. The only thing that they're going to have in there as far as fat is going to be what you put into them. So tonight, all we had was just a little bit of chicken broth and a little bit of olive oil. So you've got pretty much healthy fats in there. And that's all it's going to be in them. And then are really, really good if you have a diabetic in the house because they're exceptionally low in the glycemic index. That means that they're not as high as far as the starch content. So next, you're going to have all this extra protein. They do have, as far as a plant-based protein, way more protein than the average, like bean. A half cup serving of cooked lentils is going to give you 12 grams of protein, which is really good considering that it is not an animal-based protein, because there are only about 22 grams of protein in a half of a small chicken breast. So if we can eat a cup of lentils, you're going to be getting just about as much protein as you would from that piece of chicken. So that's going to be something else that you can always count on. Okay, if you've got a vegetarian in the family, or maybe you've got a youngster that doesn't really like meat, you get them to like some lentils, and you're going to be able to get protein in their diet. And then there's also, they have a lot of potassium. Potassium is a good thing. We think a lot about, watching out for our sodium, and we need to get potassium in there because it kind of counteracts the effects of sodium. So if you're low on potassium, your body's not fighting off the sodium the way it should. So you're getting a lot of potassium while you're eating these. Folate, which is another good nutrient. This is really good for if you have anybody, if you're of childbearing age, if you're pregnant or plan on being pregnant, you always need to make sure you're getting a lot of folate in your diet. In the same way with the iron, you want to make sure that you're getting plenty of iron in your diet so that you're staying nice and healthy for that baby. And then another thing is manganese is a good mineral that we need to help with our bones and major organs, including our liver, kidney, and pancreas. It plays a role in maintaining our blood sugar levels as well. So there again, lentils are going to be a really good food if you have a diabetic in your family, that you're going to have to help make sure they're getting a good balanced diet. So that's kind of the skinny on lentils. And they're, like I said, they're really handy to have around because you can throw these also, you can throw them into soup and make a vegetable soup. They're really good in there. Throw some extra protein in. You can make a vegetarian vegetable soup that way. Look at this fish, guys. It is really crisping up and really getting good. And then our lentils are just cooking away over here. And see how quick those are cooking down? They haven't even been in this pan for more than 10 minutes, and they're already about half done. All right, so the fish is going to have to go off. It is done. Now, where does the orange juice come from? Okay, we've said this had orange sauce on it. So as you get this fish done, you're going to take just a little, they said to take an orange and pop it in the microwave and then squeeze the juice out. Well, I'm lazy. I'm just using regular orange juice. So I'm going to just dump this orange juice over top of this fish. And the citrus, they normally put a little bit of lemon juice on fish anyway because it really enhances the flavor. But you're going to put that on top of there like that. And it's going to put a little extra moisture back in this fish. And it's going to make this a little light glaze over top of it as well. So that is a really good way to make your fish. So there's that. And then I have a little bonus recipe that I've tried tonight. I don't know if anybody has ever tried to roast radishes. This is my first foray into this, so let's check these out. I have them in the oven. And these were just some regular red radishes that I picked up at the market the other day. And you just roast them like you would a regular vegetable in a little bit of olive oil with some garlic powder and salt and pepper on them, and they look really pretty. They turned out purple and pinks and whites. They're really nice. Let me get a few of those on the plate here. Okay. Oh, they smell really good too. We got a little brown on the bottom, and our lentils are looking really good too. I'm glad it's supper time because I'm ready to eat, guys. What do you think? Really pretty plate, and we've got protein in two sources here. We have vegetables. We've got, if you would have a glass of milk or something like that on the side, you're going to have a really well-balanced my plate here.
It looks good.
Yeah.
Looks really good. And I have never tried lentils. I had some lentils that I bought because I wanted to try them, but I let them sit for too long, and I recently threw them away.
They really won't go, unless you have for extreme amount of time. But they're just like a dried bean. They'll last forever on your pantry. So they're a good thing to have on hand like I said, you can always pop them in, do them like I'm doing right now, and serve them up. They we've got some recipes where you can use them in tacos in place of hamburger meat. You can use them. You can make a lentil stew, where you just put them in a stew instead of meat, and use your vegetables in it that way.
Mm-hmm.
They really don't have a lot of flavor, but they got a lot of protein. So whatever you flavor them with is what they're going to taste like. And you're getting all that extra bonus protein, plus all those vitamins and stuff that I was talking about too. So you really can't go wrong. Right. They are the perfect little food for as teeny tiny as they are too.
Yes.
Yes. All right. Well, I hope everybody gives these recipes a shot, especially this fish recipe. I'll tell you, I make this probably at least once every 2 weeks because it has become a favorite around here. It's really super simple. Fish can be kind of be a little bit, people, I know it took me a long time to get comfortable making fish because for one thing, we have to pay so much for it sometimes if you buy the better pieces of fish, and you're always a little leery, am I going to mess it up? You really cannot go wrong with pan frying a fish and a little bit of olive oil with some seasoning, and you got it right there. So
yeah, it looks really good.
Yeah. All right. Well, I will be back next week, and I think we're going to talk a little bit about some whole grains next week, and we're going to do I've got some different spins on some things that might surprise you.
Oh, okay. Well, that's exciting.
Yeah. Come back next week and see what we do this time, okay? All right. And again, if anybody has any questions, please, pop them in the chat there, and Kathy will make sure they get to me, or you can always reach me at the extension office. Not a problem. I'm always available for any questions. So hope everybody enjoys their evening, and I'll see you next week.
Okay. See you later, Johnna.
Bye-bye. Thanks.